Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Life Happens, Let EFR Help. I'm Johanna Dunlevy, the Wellness and Marketing Manager with EFR, and I'm excited to be here today with my colleague, Tina Leaf, our Clinical Director, and we are here to help you better understand the different experiences through common life stages and how EFR benefits are here to help through all of those experiences. This is a 30-minute webinar, and you will have an opportunity to ask questions through the chat. We will monitor the chat and respond to questions at the very end of the webinar today. So I want you to think about these scenarios, and I wonder if these feel familiar to you. I know they certainly feel familiar to me. You wonder how to navigate your current stage of life. If you've ever felt that the stage of life you're in is complicated, confusing, has a lot of unknowns, you may wonder how to navigate it. You may have situations or questions that feel too difficult to address, like you don't know where to start, you don't know who to turn to, or maybe you're going through something and you feel like no one else understands what you're going through or could possibly understand how you feel. So if any of those feel familiar to you, the good news is that EFR is here to help you navigate the many stages of life and those questions that come with each stage. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to explore early adulthood, building and blending of families, relationship dissolution, sandwich generation, and nearing retirement. These 5 stages of life are all very common. Maybe you've been through some of them, maybe you're almost through all of them. I know of the 5, I've hit all 4. I'm not nearing retirement yet, but I've hit all 4. And I've had a lot of questions, and I know that many people can relate. So this webinar is here to help you explore these stages, the things that come up. Also think outside yourself. Maybe you have children entering early adulthood, or you have parents nearing retirement, and you can maybe help connect the dots for them as well. So without further ado, let's get into early adulthood.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Johanna. As I prepared for this discussion, I think, like you said, I, like you, have hit a lot of these stages. And when we talk about young adulthood, it's the young folks that are turning 18, which is a big deal for a lot of people, right? We talk about that it's the rite of passage into the next phase of life. And young people are now leaving the security of their family where they've, been for the last 18 years. Some people look forward to this, but others can feel really ambivalent about leaving that family. Entering adulthood, I think, can bring more freedom as they learn to be independent from parents and caregivers, but it can come with more expectations and pressures from others, in my opinion. This is the first time, really, that young people can make independent decisions without parental consent or input. Think about navigating autonomy, like scheduling that first doctor's appointment without your parents. For some young people, this is a phase of life where, they may be, going off to college or a trade school. And for some, they may be seeking, for their first big job, their first full-time employment. It really requires them to understand money and budgeting. I think about when I went to college and opening that first credit card, it was like, wow, I have this money that I, on this credit card that I can use. But gosh, I also have to make the payment on that, right? And so, it's figuring out how to build credit versus building debt. I think many young people may leave the family home and live alone for the first time in young adulthood. It's now their rules and their expectations. Again, it can be great for some, but for others, they could experience isolation for the first time or boredom, which could lead to symptoms related to, could be anxiety, depression, could also be substance use. Another challenge of adulthood, and I'll go into that. I'll go into that next, Johanna. I'll let you take back over.
All right. So how can some of those experiences tie back to EFR benefits. So keep in mind that our benefits are for anyone in your household. So you may have young adult children living in your household, or maybe you have young adult children who have just recently left and now they're living maybe in a dormitory or an apartment, but they're still essentially under your care and watch because they're still your children and dependents. So keep in mind they have access to our benefits, as do you if you're listening and maybe you're in this stage of life, because we know a lot of young adults enter the workforce pretty immediately, and you may be in that situation as well. But what can we do at EFR to help you navigate this stage of life? We can help with counseling services to explore the feelings you have. We have life coaching services to help with goal setting, long-term goal setting, short-term goal setting. Financial consultation, maybe you want to understand a loan repayment option, or maybe you have questions about taking out student loans for your kids or maybe yourself. Legal consultation to ensure something like renter's rights or to buy or sell a car by owner. So we have a legal library on our website and it has all sorts of forms. And if you're looking to maybe buy a car or sell a car on your own, you can actually turn to legal consultation library, and there are forms there that can help you with that. We also have a platform called Togetherall, which I will share more about at the end today, but Togetherall is a place where you can give and get support, and you can connect with others who are navigating the same kind of ups and downs of life that you are. So all of these benefits can be applied to this stage of life. And then just one little fun fact about this stage of life, a lot of young adults are still living with their parents. And that's why I mentioned that if you are a parent of a young adult, but they're in your household, they have access to this benefit. And so I think oftentimes we assume that, a child leaves around the age of 18 and they don't come back, and that's just becoming less common. And so you may have, a 30-year-old son or daughter living with you, and if they are in your household, they are eligible for our benefits. So please take this information home.
I think the next stage of life that is important to discuss is the building or blending of families. I think it can be a challenge of adulthood, just navigating relationships on your own. I think we talk about this idea, you mentioned previously that, adults are not always leaving the family home, or sometimes they're coming back. Likewise, more and more married couples are choosing not to have children. They've coined them the DINKs, dual income, no kids. The idea of being responsible for others can be scary, as a young person. I think also family values are changing, at least from when I was growing up. It felt like it was almost an expectation, for my parents that after they got married, you discussed kids. Whereas now couples discuss maybe that they don't want kids, ever or at all, because social expectations, I think, are changing. Some couples cite that fear of bringing kids into this world can feel scary, again, being responsible for somebody outside of themselves. Others note that finances, create a challenge about, starting a family. Oftentimes, people are building or blending families nowadays, and family dynamics vary widely. And really no two families or circumstances are the same. Once couples do have children, they have to transition into balancing life, such as work, the couple relationship and parenting. There's just so much on the plate. And oftentimes people in this phase of life feel pulled in many different directions. I think just like in the previous phase of life, young adults can again experience mental health challenges like anxiety and depression as they navigate all of these hurdles. Am I doing the right thing? Am I thinking about this clearly?
And I think this can often be a really exciting time in life, but like Tina said, it definitely comes with its own unique challenges. So what are some benefits for building and blending families? Certainly the counseling benefit, and again, this is for you and anyone in your household, so we can do individual counseling or we can do family counseling, to help navigate relationships, feelings, or any mental health challenges that you may have. Financial consultation. This may be a time in life when you need to really take a look at your budget and start adjusting things or taking into consideration, there are more people in your household that you need to, feed and prepare, resources for, if it's maybe extracurricular activities with kiddos as they get older. So definitely budgeting can be a way that we can help through our financial consultation benefit. Legal consultation, so maybe you need to establish a living will, or maybe you're choosing to adopt and build a family that way. Again, that legal library is great, but you can also connect with an attorney and have a 30-minute consultation at no cost. And that benefit is really great, so you can feel more secure in what your options are. We have childcare resources to identify licensed childcare providers. So especially if you're maybe looking for a new childcare provider, or if you've relocated and you're not super familiar with your new community, one called EFR can help you identify some different options. And then together, all the platform that we'll talk about as we go through the presentation today, it's a place where you can connect with other people who may be navigating co-parenting or starting a family, or maybe it's infertility. I mean, there's so many things that people go through in this stage of life. And as Tina kind of mentioned before, some of the statistics around marriage and choosing to have kids have been changing. And one thing that's really interesting, and something that's much more prevalent now than it used to be, is that 16% of kids live in the United States live in blended families, and about 40% of households are blended. So blended meaning it's not necessarily birth mom, birth father, and siblings. It may be step parents, it may be grandparents, it may be step siblings or half siblings. So lots of benefits for this stage of life.
When we talk about, so what we have on deck now is the sandwich generation. And this is kind of my favorite generation to talk about, because I feel like I find myself in this generation, smack dab in the middle of it right now. The sandwich generation is a phase of life where adults transition to becoming dual caretakers. They both care for their aging parents and their own children. So for me personally, both of my parents are retired, yet I have kiddos as young as 6 in my home. And so, it does create a lot of pressure for myself, but also, adults just to maintain their own households, but also assist with parents. I did a little research on this, and according to the Pew Research Center, about 1 out of every 8 Americans between the ages of 40 and 60 care directly for an aging parent. In my opinion, both adults and kiddos can have really high demands, which puts the adult child in a tough situation to have to choose. For example, in my own home, both of my parents being retired, but also in declining health, sometimes I have to choose. Do I go out of town to my kid's soccer game to watch her and cheer her on the sideline? Or do I tend to my aging parents' needs? I think I'm also at a point where I love my job and I love going to work every day, but I also have to find a way to balance the demands of a career, right? I think it can put, being in the sandwich generation can put strain on relationships with partners, friends, and family. I think about, my own situation and others that I've talked about. Oftentimes your own self-care is what gets forgotten or overlooked, or I think about self-care, like going on a date with your partner or hanging with girlfriends that you haven't seen for quite a while. Those are the first things sometimes that get cut when attention, your attention is limited. Now, you may notice a trend on each of the talking points that I've discussed. There are different challenges. These different challenges often lead to feelings of anxiety and depression throughout adulthood and each of these phases.
I can also relate to this generation having an elementary aged child, and now I have one living parent who is now in their 80s, and within the last few years my other parent passed away due to declining health. And so I've been in this generation for a while, and I think when I think of the sandwich generation, I think of pivoting. You have to do a lot of pivoting, like Tina mentioned, pivoting from maybe having plans to do something with your young kids to all of a sudden having to go take care of mom or dad because, you know, they broke a hip or they need some help. They can't drive anymore. But what are benefits that can help you if you are a sandwich generation person? So counseling to navigate relationships. Obviously, there's going to be a toll on relationships when you're stretched this thin. You may also need to navigate your own feelings or mental health challenges that may arise. There could be the need for legal consultation to establish healthcare directives or maybe a power of attorney, a medical directive. And again, those can be 30-minute consultations with an attorney. And if you were to retain that attorney, you do get a 25% reduction in legal fees. Or maybe there's just a forms library where you can go and access the form that you need. Childcare resources, again, to identify those licensed childcare providers, but we also have elder care resources to establish care options for aging loved ones. So in my situation, my parent who has passed away was living about 4.5 hours from me, so I was still able to connect with him, and you know, I was familiar with that community because I grew up there. So when it was time to send him to a nursing home, I knew exactly where he was going. But my mom, on the other hand, she lives in Arizona, and I don't know anything about resources out there. So if I were to come to a point in my life where I need to look into maybe short-term or long-term care options for my mom, I could use my EAP benefit, or my alternative would be to start Googling. And I'd much rather kind of get to the point of what my options are by calling EFR. So elder care resources can be tremendously helpful, especially because oftentimes we don't live in the same community or even state as our elder loved ones. And then Together All, definitely another place to connect with people who are taking care of both kiddos and their elder loved ones. So according to USA Today, approximately 1/4 of adults, or 25%, identify as sandwich generation. So chances are there are a handful of us on this webinar today who identify with that generation.
The next section I think that is worth some discussion is the dissolution of relationships, right? So on one end, as you enter adulthood as a young person, you're thinking about pursuing relationships and how to maintain relationships. Another part of adulthood can be the dissolution of these relationships. For some couples struggle to make themselves, the individual or the couple, a priority, and we can see breakdown in those relationships, right? And some relationships, they don't make it. They may end in divorce, which is a very common challenge for those in adulthood. And it can lead to an array, I think, of a lot of different feelings. Data that I reviewed from 2021 indicates that the US rate for divorce was 2.5 per 1,000 people. It also says that marriage and divorce rates have been declining in the past 10 years. So that's also, I think, an interesting fact. Maybe less people are choosing to get married, thus, divorce rates also then decline. I think the ending of a relationship can mean that the persons involved, they really have to readjust to being single, again, and navigating life on their own. If there are children involved, it can also mean that we have to navigate the co-parenting relationship, which can be really tough for some. I think, especially if parents aren't on the same page about how to parent their children. Oftentimes, dissolution of a relationship can also mean that we have to adjust our social circles, because those, our social circles oftentimes are people that we spent time with together as a couple, and how to redefine those boundaries. It can also create, financial strain as, you go from 2-income household to just one. Inevitably, somebody, also when a relationship ends, will likely move out of the home, that was once shared, which can mean adjusting to a new neighborhood, neighbors, community, moving somewhere that just feels, less familiar without your established supports. I think about my neighborhood now, and, we have we have block parties, you know, and we watch football together. And the thought of having to leave my neighborhood and my community would feel very scary to me, right? I think also in this phase of life, some struggle with the loss of identity because they may have identified so much as a spouse, you know, a wife or a husband, or being a part of that particular community. You know, so you lose a part of how you once had identified. I think at this stage, loneliness can also set in, you know, which can lead to disconnecting from support and maybe isolation at times, right? So again, when you're going through, you know, all of the obstacles of a relationship that has ended, it will again create, you know, some mental health challenges such as anxiety and depression. You know, as we learn to navigate the world as an individual person.
And so for this stage of life, again, a lot of the same benefits, but the point we're trying to get across is that no matter what stage of life you're in, counseling may always be an option. Life coaching may always be an option. Those financial and legal consultation resources may also be an option. So counseling, obviously, to navigate relationships, feelings, or anything that pops up regarding your mental health as those relationships maybe break down and you're trying to sort through a new identity or a loss of community, because this is a really significant part of life for a lot of people. And it doesn't always have to be a negative part of life. It can be a turning point to the positive. So life coaching could be a way to put that in perspective, especially if you're feeling kind of that loss of your sense of self. A life coach could really help with that. Financial consultation, if you're needing to adjust your budget, and most often when a relationship dissolves, there will be some adjustment to, your financial security. Legal consultation, perhaps you do need an attorney for a custody agreement or a divorce, and the consultation is a way to explore, who might be a good fit for you as an attorney. And then if that person clicks with you, there is that 25% reduction in legal fees, which is huge savings when it comes to anything related to retaining an attorney. And then Together All, I've been on this platform, and I specifically recall one kind of exchange between me and another Together All member about a breakup that they were going through, and it was just kind of the beginning weeks of that. And I listened to what they were saying, and I contributed to the conversation with my own life experiences from this aspect of life. So Together All can be a great resource. And as Tina mentioned, divorce rates and marriage rates have been declining in recent years.
The last phase of adulthood is that phase of nearing retirement, right? And again, you yourself may be there, or your parents, but oftentimes somebody who may be nearing retirement or in retirement. And I think about, like, I wake up some days and I'm tired, or it's a beautiful day and I'm like, I would rather be outside doing yard work instead of working today. And I'm like, I can't wait until I'm retired. I think we all think about those things. But again, for some, it can be a really exciting time, but for others, maybe not so much, right? Nearing retirement as a phase of life is really about all things, to me, like getting older, right? For a lot of people, me included, our jobs often create such a sense of purpose. It's oftentimes why I get up during the day or in the morning. And we think about, if you're nearing retirement, it's like, what now? What do I do now? I have to find a new purpose in this phase of life. For some, that can feel really scary, but it's also, in my opinion, a great way to explore new opportunities. I think about, being in the sandwich generation, and like I said, having to, sometimes travel and go out of town for soccer or to care for my parents. The idea of exploring a new opportunity just isn't in the cards for me right now. There's no time. But when you're nearing retirement, maybe it does open time, to explore a new opportunity or a new hobby. And I think that can be really exciting. Some people really look forward to retirement, while others may just be ambivalent about it, right? Some folks who retire, again, have to adjust their social circles because they won't be going to work and seeing the same people that they're accustomed to seeing. I think it's also, when you think about, the financial changes, it means for some being on more of a fixed income, that can create some financial strain. As we near retirement and are nearing advanced age, for some, health deteriorates, right? Which means more doctors, more medicines, which in my opinion translates for some to more cost. I think some people get really comfortable in the everyday routine of work, and now that will change. It's like, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's less predictable, than knowing that you have to get up and go to work. And that's why I think it's important, for some, they have like retirement planned out. They know that they're going to travel. They know that they're going to take up this hobby. And so that makes it a little bit more predictable. And so the change of routine can sometimes be easier for those folks. But some people, it's like, I stopped working on Friday and Monday I'm retired and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Again, at this stage, our identity shifts. Which can be great for some, but I think it can also put into perspective that idea of like, wow, I'm really getting older. Loneliness can set in, especially for those who maybe are not as social on their own. They may tend to stay home, have less engagement with others than work used to offer them. It's estimated that 1/3 of US retirees develop symptoms of depression at this stage of life. And they refer to this as the retirement depression. So again, even at this stage, we see folks trying to manage symptoms of anxiety and depression.
I think also at this time in life, there might be changes in family. And so depending on, where you are with adult children and maybe how young or old you were when you had them, nearing retirement may also coincide with kids moving out of the house. So lots of changes in this stage of life and lots of resources from EFR that can help. So again, counseling, as long as you're employed and have EFR's benefits. So before you retire from your employer, take advantage of the counseling benefits, take advantage of life coaching, because these are resources available to you in advance of retiring. And, think about how those kind of steps to setting up for a successful retirement can be, additionally supported through EFR. Financial consultation and legal consultation. So maybe, again, you're adjusting income or you're needing to do, budgeting differently, or maybe you want to purchase a second home in another state and you don't know, around the legality around where you should explore. So legal and financial consultation, identity theft restoration. So this particular benefit can apply to any stage of life because we all know that our identities can be compromised or stolen at any time, but oftentimes it does happen to older individuals. And so EFR does have a service, identity theft restoration. If you're going through and you notice something's off with your credit score, or you're seeing things that just don't seem right, or maybe you've been notified that there was a data breach and your identity could be compromised, reach out to us because we have identity theft restoration services at any stage in life, not just this one. And then together all, again, connecting with others, going through different life transitions. And as Tina mentioned, about 1/3 of people develop depression during this time of life. So lots of great resources from EFR to help with each stage of life. And just to recap what those resources are here, we do have 24/7 phone support, meaning you can call EFR at any time. You'll always speak with a counselor. They will listen. And if you want to set up services listed like counseling, life coaching, the legal and financial consultation, child and elder care resources, we have first responder coaching. So this is coaching specific to those in the first responder community, or to explore together all. Those benefits are accessible to you and all of your household family members. We say life happens, we're here to help. We are one phone call away, 800-327-4692. or you can visit EFR.org. We just got a new website last week, so if you haven't been out to our website in a while, you'll notice that it looks different. But yeah, I would program this number into your phone because it's certainly a great way to start exploring some of those big questions you have, or to start connecting the dots on how you're feeling and what might be the best next step for you. We mentioned Together All several times today. This is a great resource to do on your own time at your own pace. It's a peer support platform. You can scan this QR code, which will take you to the registration page. This is a completely anonymous platform, peer-to-peer. It is moderated by counselors on the Together All side, and simply so that if someone is struggling, they can reach out and provide resources to that person, because occasionally there are people on the platform who really do need more of a professional intervention and conversation. But it is completely anonymous. You can connect with people going through similar experiences, or maybe you've been through something and you want to give back and say, you know, I've been there too, this is what helped me. That's a great place for you to give that support. It's different from joining a group on social media because it is, again, monitored. You can't exchange personal information. You can't bully. You can't harass. There's definitely protective measures in place on this platform so everyone feels safe and that they can contribute safely. But go ahead and scan that QR code if you'd like to learn more about Together All and get signed up. Otherwise, I'm excited to share that our next webinar is October 30th at 10 a.m. Neurodiversity 101. Again, scan the QR code and it will take you to the registration page. But this is going to be a quick overview, a 30-minute overview of neurodiversity, what falls under that umbrella, and how it impacts the workplace. We do have a larger training offering around this topic called Neurodiversity in the Workplace. But if you want to just learn a little bit about neurodiversity, this would be a great opportunity to explore that, as this has been a buzzword in especially workplace literature lately. So please consider joining us next month for that. And if there are any questions, please type them in the chat and Tina and I will be happy to answer them. I think while we're waiting for any questions to come through, one thing I want to mention about using EAP benefits is that there's often, I think, 3 reasons people don't use them. The first is they just forget. They forget that these benefits exist. They are out of sight, out of mind. It's not a natural, oh, I could use my EAP benefit step for them. So that's why I would encourage you to program our number in your phone. I think the second reason is stigma, you know, that fear of asking for help, or maybe just feeling like you can do it on your own. And I would encourage you, if you're experiencing those types of feelings, to just let yourself be vulnerable and ask for help. Reach out, call our 800 number, see how we can help you. And then lastly, I think sometimes people get a little nervous, they question the confidentiality, but we are HIPAA compliant, and anything you share with us or our counselors cannot be shared back to your employer. All right, we have someone asking to provide a link to the legal forms. I will email you directly. Okay, our financial consultation is limited to 30 minutes. Yes, they are limited to 30 minutes. However, you have an unlimited number of sessions. So if you have a question around debt consolidation, you would get a 30-minute consultation for that. If you have a question around maybe filling out a financial aid form for a student getting ready to go to college, that's a separate issue, and you would get 30 minutes for that. Where can I get the legal forms? If you go to EFR.org under how, well, I'm gonna do a new screen share in a moment, and I will just show you all that because I have a couple questions about the website. And is there a different way to access Together All in the Neurodiversity 101 sign up? Yes. By going to our website, I can show that. If I leave my employer through retirement or change of jobs, do I still have benefits from you? No. So the EAP benefit is not a benefit that carries over into retirement. But if you start counseling sessions or life coaching sessions and then you end up retiring, you can finish your sessions, but you can't start after you have retired? That's a great question. All these questions are great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop showing my screen for just a moment. I'm going to pull up our website and I'm going to share a new screen. I'm not as savvy with GoTo as I am Zoom, so I have to. All right, Tina, can you see our website?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is EFR.org. We just rolled out a new website last week. So if you go under your EAP benefits, you'll see all of your employee benefits. We have benefits for managers and workplaces, but we're going to focus in this employee benefit column today. Legal consultation. If you click on our legal consultation button, it'll give you an overview of what it entails, some examples of why you may want to use it. And this access services button will take you over to our partner CLC's website, and there is a legal forms library here. So I don't know where you all are joining us from. I'm just going to pick Iowa because depending on what state you're in, the forms will be different, but I'm going to select Iowa since I'm in Iowa today. And you can see that there are a lot of resources. So create a will, financial power of attorney, funeral and legacy planning, healthcare, horses, in case anyone wants to buy or sell a horse, household, internet safety, all sorts of things. So there's that automobile bill of sale that I referenced earlier under loans and sales. Rental applications, outgoing tenants, so lots of things there in that library. Together All is also under the Your EAP Benefits menu. If you click on Together All, it will take you to this page where you can learn more and register. So for the individual who could not use that QR code, you can navigate through EFR.org, Your EAP Benefits, Together All. And then I think that same question was about registering for webinars. I just finalized the details for this webinar yesterday. I do not have it on our website yet. It's just the link to register just goes straight to GoTo right now. But it will be under the Connect menu, and under the webinars, there will be today's recording available, as well as one to sign up for. So you can register for the webinar here, but it is not on the website yet. But it will be soon. So any questions about the website that I missed? Because there are a lot of good ones that came through. Great. Well, we will end the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate everyone's time and questions. I hope this was helpful. And I just got one more question. Will we get an email about the neurodiversity webinar? Yes, I will send a message to everyone who joined today about neurodiversity, and it will include a link to sign up. And that actually gets automated. It comes out about an hour after the webinar today. So it will be a thank you for attending today's webinar. We have Neurodiversity 101 coming up October 30th. And so you'll see that link there. But great questions. Excited to see so many people engaging with the chat and asking good questions. And I hope everyone makes it a great day.